Right, well you see we've all got hands in pockets. It's about what, 6 or 7 degrees.
If that.
We're at the 15th of March and we're here with kind permission of Mr. Richard Beachill, who farms at Fieldhouse Farm, Bainton. Thank you, Richard. The farm adjoining here, Bainton Heights, is farmed by Bainton Farming Company.
Bainton Arable Farming.
Oh, sorry,
Limited.
Bainton Arable Farming Limited.
Yes.
Between Richard and a neighbour. Looking at this crop we're in at the moment, this is a field of winter wheat. We'd better just start off by saying a little bit about the soil types we're on here, Richard, and I know we've probably done a little bit of filming here before, but just to reiterate the soil type we're on, good bodied, I would call it some of the best land in the East Riding, Richard.
Yeah, good heavy, medium to heavy wall type soil, all lying over chalk at varying depths throughout the farm, but good bodied soil.
Yeah.
High pH.
High pH.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a point that we need to make.
Yeah.
But the depth of soil is an equal important point to make as well.
Yeah. Down here at this end of the farm, it's a good depth.
Yeah.
Gets a little bit lighter as you get up on.
That's almost Wolds proper towards the back of the farm.
A little bit deeper probably than some of the Wold soils that you're used to.
Yeah.
So we're on good soil. We have a tag trial site on this farm, and they like the trials here because there's no influence from muck. We don't have any muck on here, unfortunately.
You'd like to remedy that, wouldn't you?
Definitely, very much so. But they like it because you get the consistency of the trials. So it's not being influenced by muck at all.
You incorporate your straw back into the soil.
Just about everything gets incorporated back. Rape, pea haulm, wheat straw. We feel a little bit of barley straw, but we do prefer to chop it, mainly because we're fairly lean as far as labour goes. There's only Nick and myself.
Yeah.
And so straw can add to the labour need quite a lot. But also, we're not putting muck back. We do need to put some organic matter back into the soil. So,
are you looking at organic matter levels then?
Well, it's something that is more important, particularly when you get these droughty years. The more organic matter you have, it seems to hold it better, and our organic matters aren't particularly high. It's surprising that we chop so much straw back and it isn't all that high. Don't ask me how much it is because I can't remember, but we do actually have it analysed rotationally now because we grow vining pigs for bird's eye, and that's something that they want.
Yeah, they want to do anyway.
They do.
Just while I said earlier on the influence of pH on certainly the subject that we'll talk a little bit about today, and that's some of the nutritional aspects of the crop. With us today is also Andrew Lowe from Safer Grow. I guess that pH, Rich, does it cause you problems? Do you see deficiencies, or what's the sort of situation, particularly with the micros?
Well, magnesium levels on this farm aren't particularly brilliant. They're sort of 1.5 as far as an index goes. Manganese, I don't actually put manganese on, but the pH and the soil type it really sort of indicates that we should.
Intellectually, you should be thinking maybe, but then do you see the benefit?
Well, I don't particularly see the deficiency, so it's very difficult to treat for if there isn't a deficiency. They do nutrition trials among the tag trials, and we don't get a response from it. But there may just be that subclinical level. I do notice that on this farm, which doesn't have any muck, and then there's farms round and about which do get slurries and chicken muck, etc. Their crops are a little bit greener than ours. So,
I mean, compared to where we farm up at Helmsley, on that real impoverished limestone, you think your crops are slightly pale by your standard. Well, let me tell you that ours are a long way behind and a completely different shade of green to this. In other words, they're bordering on the yellow right now. So from my perspective, when you go up there and come back down here, we'll maybe do that journey, Andrew, and just look at the differences in terms of soil type, altitude, aspect, these sorts of things all have a bearing on the crops.
I mean, Chris, what do you say in a situation like this? Do you feel that we talk a lot about balanced nutrition, and normally when we're hearing about subclinical levels, we would still think that the right micronutrient in the right crop at the right time, you know, should normally have a benefit. But I mean, it does boil down to return at the end of the day for the farmer, doesn't it?
Well, absolutely, Andy. And what myself and Rich have conversations about nutrition. The one thing to say, that not to make his head any bigger, but Rich is a pretty good agronomist in his own right. He does all the agronomy on the farm. Nod vehemently, Rich. But you know, when these guys don't see the benefit of things that we do, they can obviously, and we were saying earlier, Rich, you know, that we'll talk a little bit more about it. We're in a field of winter wheat, variety Oakley. We'll talk a little bit about the yellow rust, which is beginning to appear pretty rapidly now in this particular crop. You put a fungicide on, the right choice at the right time, and you actually eliminate that problem.
Yep.
What we're talking about are problems which Rich has admitted that certainly in the barleys, one of the definite symptoms of a manganese, or certainly subclinical manganese deficiency, is if you can see where the soil compaction has aided that root to soil contact.
Yeah.
In other words, look along the wheelings and you can see either side of the wheelings where the tractors perhaps just push that crop down and improve that root to soil contact. You'll get these green strips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's evidence to me, particularly in a dry time, because we've got to look at the conditions which superimpose itself on top of the crop. The wheelings are standing out green.
Right.
Now that to me rings a bell regarding manganese deficiency. But then when they do the trials, and I don't know what materials they've tried, Rich, so I'm speaking from a point of ignorance in a way, can we put manganese on these crops, which is another investment in the crop, to give Rich that sort of return on the investment in terms of yield? And that's difficult to say, but there is no doubt whatsoever that even though you don't see that increase in yield, perhaps you are improving the general health of the crop.
Yes.
And aiding other things within the crop in particularly hard times. And we've gone through 2 years now where we've had long protracted dry spells where the crop has required that help from above, purely because the pH, maybe a little bit of frost lift in the soil has teased that root away from soil contact, that, you know, should benefit. And it defies logic to say you shouldn't see a small return on rectifying that problem, Rich. And it's hard for me to give you a reason why perhaps you haven't.
And better nutrition within the plant will probably help it fight disease.
Exactly.
Yeah, we've seen this.
You know, probably if nutrition was exactly right in this crop, we wouldn't see the yellow rust that we've got.
Yeah, I'd like to say yes to that, but I think with a variety like Oakley, you know, to think that we could have got the nutrition right sufficiently well enough to keep yellow rust out, with the conditions which are absolutely ideal right now, dewy mornings, the temperature band in which yellow rust is more prevalent, somewhere between 7 and 12 or something like that. We've had these conditions. It was almost, I could have written it on your wall and said, you know, if these conditions persist, you're growing Oakley, yellow rust.